Now that some time has passed, I can officially announce that I finally quit my toxic job. The weight that was lifted off of my shoulders once I quit, I cannot put it into words. I know that people quit their jobs all of the time and they don't think about it, they move on, they start a new chapter, but when you have experienced an unhealthy work environment for so long, it traumatizes you. And this is happening far too often in the workplace. Employees are being mistreated and nothing is being done about it. In 2020, I was laid off from my job. And unfortunately, because of the circumstances of that year, we all know what happened in 2020, I had a really hard time finding a new job. So I spent almost 2 years on unemployment. And that is not something that I'm proud of. It's not something that I don't feel guilt about, because unfortunately the way society is set up, it convinces you that you need to work, and if you're not working, you're a lazy piece of shit. So while I was unemployed, I did what I could to supplement my income, so I would tutor as many days out of the week that I could. When I finally got a job, I was very relieved, but the job was in the suburbs and I live in Chicago. I live in the city. I had to drive to the suburbs 5 days a week, and that would add on about 2 hours extra of commuting to my day. I stayed at that job for as long as I could, but the commute was really hard on me, and I knew I could get something closer to my house in the city. So I just kept applying, and when I finally got a call for an interview, it was with the job that I'm going to talk about right now. I was so drawn to this job because it was close to where I lived, and I was going to be able to work from home 3 days a week if I was hired. When I had the interview with one of the hiring managers, I had the most awkward, uncomfortable experience. The hiring manager told me verbatim, "Don't get too excited about working here." And she kind of laughed about it, and I laughed because I didn't really know how to react, and I'm in the middle of an interview, and here is the person representing this company telling me that there's nothing exciting about working for them. The entire interview was honestly very strange. Once I got off the interview, I called my mom and she asked me how it went, and I explained to her what happened, and she agreed with me. She said, "Yeah, that is very unprofessional and very off-putting to hear that from a company that you're possibly going to work for. How do you even respond to the hiring manager who's saying that to you?" And those were my exact thoughts. I remember telling my mom, "I don't even think I got the job. Let me just forget about it and keep putting my resume out there." Well, I was wrong, because about a week later, I got the job offer. And yes, I was putting my resumes out there to so many other places, but I wasn't hearing back. So I knew I needed to get out of the job I was currently at because it was too far. But I also had a uneasy feeling about this new job. I was trying to weigh the pros and cons. I was like, I get to work from home 3 days a week. It's close to where I live. It pays more money. I should just give it a chance. So I accepted the offer, and the hiring manager that interviewed me was also the manager of human resources. So keep that in mind. The first week at my job, I was thrown in with the wolves. There was no direction, but there was a huge meeting coming up, and I was solely the responsible person in the company that had to coordinate that meeting. My boss, the director of the company, was really supportive. He had an open door policy and he always was available to answer any questions. He would help me out if I was struggling with something. But eventually he left because he was also exhausted from working there. I would find that out later. Once he left, we hired an interim director, and he was the complete opposite of the director that I was hired on with in the beginning. He was very laid back. He didn't really think ahead, and he expected me to basically remember all of the things that he needed to do. I was under a lot of stress, but I was somehow getting all of my work done, which was a miracle because there were so many things that I was required to do working for this company, and I was really proud of myself. But once the interim director was hired on was when the human resources manager really started to make my job a living hell. She would micromanage me on a consistent basis. I'm talking about walking up to my desk and asking me, "What are you doing? What are you working on? How's this project going?" And I would respond to her in a professional way. I never allowed her to see me frazzled or upset. But this micromanaging behavior really started to escalate. And I don't report to her. For context, I report to the director of the company. But for whatever reason, she felt the need to insert herself into everything that I was doing. If I made a mistake, she was always just, you could tell, waiting for the moment that she could call me out. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. I tried to rationalize with myself and say, maybe she's just under a lot of stress because we have this interim director and there's a lot of shifting going around in the company and people are having to take on more responsibilities than they typically would have. But I was wrong. She had a personal vendetta against me. I started to express how I was feeling at work to my mom. I also told my dad. They both agreed. The way the human resources manager was treating me was unacceptable. They both wanted me to stand up for myself, and eventually I did. The way I was treated by this manager triggered something in me that I ended up having to go to therapy for. I felt like I was constantly being picked on by her. No matter what I did, nothing was good enough. She was always throwing me under the bus to other managers. Any mistake I made, she was documenting it because I think she wanted to create a case against me and some sort of paper trail so that she could be like, "See, I told you, Madeline just doesn't know what she's doing. She's not competent enough for the job." But I remember one time I got home from work after a particularly stressful day with just things that I had to do, and then this manager just over my shoulder like a hawk. I'm walking upstairs to my apartment. I open the door, and this rush of dizziness overcomes me. So I sit down and I'm like, okay, maybe I just need some water. Let me, just hang out for a second. It'll pass. But it didn't. So I got on the floor and I started crying, hyperventilating, bawling my eyes out because I just felt so overworked and overwhelmed. And then the dizziness was freaking me out. I thought that something was medically wrong with me. My therapist had given me a really helpful mindfulness meditation video to use anytime I felt strong anxiety or panic. So as I was laying on the floor crying, I opened up my phone and put on the meditation, and I went through the whole process. It was about 10 minutes. And I thought, okay, this should be good. Like once I finish this, I'll stand up and I'll feel normal again. I didn't. I tried it again. Nothing. At this point, I'm in full panic mode because when I stand up and I walk a straight line, it feels like I'm on a boat that's swaying back and forth, or I'm on a waterbed. My only resort was to go lay down and try and sleep it off. When I woke up the next day, the dizziness was still there, and I had to go back to work. Thankfully, I had therapy later that day, so once I got on the call with my therapist, I explained to her what was happening, and I told her that I'm concerned that I might have an illness and I need to go to the hospital. And she was like, slow down, explain to me as best as you can what you're feeling right now. So I explained to her, and she's like, okay, is there anything that could possibly be triggering this? And I said, I don't know. I guess my job. And then that's when she told me that I was having a panic attack. But not just a panic attack and get it over with. A long-standing panic attack. Long-standing panic attacks are when they persist on for days or weeks or months at a time. She's like, I've seen this so much with my clients where they feel they need to go to the emergency room because they think they're having a heart attack, a stroke, or there's something wrong with them physically. When she told me that, it just clicked in my brain that my job was going to destroy me if I didn't get out of there. Not just my job, but the manager that was constantly berating me. The dizziness would come and go. Coincidentally enough, I noticed that the dizziness would go away on the weekends because I wasn't at work. And then as soon as Sunday night rolled around, the Sunday scaries kicked in, the dizziness came back full force. And with therapy, I was able to get it under control. I'm so thankful for that. But that manager's behavior towards me just continued to get more and more severe. And once annual reviews were about to happen, I had a meeting with her where she was going to discuss my annual review because for whatever reason, my boss wasn't going to have the conversation with me, which was also just weird. And the whole time in that meeting, she had nothing but negative things to say. There was a whole list of things that I apparently was doing wrong, and it just made me feel so low and so defeated. With this manager, I hit my breaking point. I told her to her face, you are passive aggressive, you micromanage people, and you cause me immense anxiety. I have no idea why you feel the need to tell me what to do at my job when I don't report to you. And she got all red in the face. Her neck got all red and blotchy because she was probably feeling put on the spot and nervous. And she looked me in the eyes and said, you're not the first person that has told me that. I'm sorry. Because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, I thought that something would click in her brain to stop treating me the way that she was treating me. And she did ease up a little bit after that conversation. But then not too long afterwards, she was back to the same old games. At that point, we had finally hired on a full-time director to replace our temporary director. And because I was under such immense pressure and stress from this coworker, I started to slack in my job. I'll admit it. It was hard for me to wake up every day and go to work because I knew that I would have to see her, and I knew that she would always have something to say to make me feel super belittled. So one day I got an email from her, and she had asked me if I could meet with her and my boss, which is the director. I know it's about to happen. Either they're gonna fire me or they're gonna threaten to fire me. So I get into the meeting, and the first thing she does is she slides me over a document, and at the top it says, Madeline Performance Improvement Plan. And she proceeds to list all of the things on the document that I had been doing wrong since I got hired. At the end of the document, there was a sentence that said, Failure to improve performance will result in immediate termination as of, and it listed the date. So I basically had about 7 weeks to improve or I was going to be fired. And I had to sign it and date it and send it back to them. Again, I addressed that manager in front of the director. And I said, I don't think you realize the immense stress and anxiety that you cause me, because you make me feel as if everything I do here is unappreciated. You rarely praise me, but you constantly criticize me. You can never find anything nice to say. She didn't say anything, but she nodded her head because, you know, she's being called out in front of the director of the company, and then there was another manager in the meeting as well. When I got home that night, I went on Reddit and I started to research what a performance improvement plan was, because I had never heard of it up until that day, and I had never been put on one in my previous jobs. So when I got on there was a bunch of people posting questions. And one of them, for example, was, if I'm put on a performance improvement plan, should I start looking for another job? And there were so many comments under this post. And the most common response was something along the lines of, yes, start applying for jobs right now. A performance improvement plan is a way for companies to quietly fire you so that they don't have to pay you unemployment. And someone else commented and said, yes, put your resume out there ASAP, because they're basically paying you to look for another job before they fire you. Oh, crap. I need to do something like right now because I only have 7 weeks. I just started. I'm on LinkedIn going crazy with the resume, and thankfully I found a job before they were able to fire me at that 7-week date. I'm not lying to you. I quit 1 day before they were going to have the final meeting with me to let me know whether they were going to keep me or fire me. Don't underestimate the fact that I'm a quiet, reserved, to myself person. I will always get my lick back. Always. If you think that you can f with me and get away with it, you are dead wrong. To be honest, I always felt guilty taking days off. Working there, if I take a day off, I'm gonna come back to hundreds of emails, all of these requests. So I had all these vacation days accrued, and so I was able to be paid out for those vacation days. And yeah, that was a good feeling. That was a real good feeling. I'm blessed that I was able to find another job before that company potentially fired me. Despite me getting a new job, it's still not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to do YouTube full time, and it's a very lofty goal, and it's going to take a while to build a following, to attract people to my channel, but it is absolutely possible for me and is the only thing that makes sense. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll just be thinking of ideas for videos, and I'll just get so excited to make videos. I am setting a deadline of 1 year of working for this company that I'm currently at. After that year is up, I'm quitting that job regardless of whether or not I'm monetized on YouTube. I don't care how risky it is to pursue what I'm actually passionate about. I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep saving up my money. I'm going to keep making videos and being consistent, because consistency is the name of the game. I am more than capable of making YouTube my full-time income. And I'm well aware that it's going to be a very difficult road, but I'm willing to strap on that seatbelt and push the gas pedal. I don't want to work for any company ever again. I am not cut out for a 9 to 5. I can't function in one. I'm not productive. I am not my best self, and I do way better when I can hone in on my creativity, when I have the freedom to do what I want, travel, and I'm not stuck in some sort of routine, you know, like waking up every day to clock in at 9 and clock out at 5, Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week. I just know that YouTube for me is the best outlet to be creative, showcase my interests like fashion and traveling and so many other things. The harsh reality is that you're never going to get ahead working for somebody else. All you're doing is putting more money in their pocket. This may sound like I want everyone to quit their jobs and become an entrepreneur, but that's not what I'm saying. I just personally don't think the 9 to 5 is for me. And now that I know that, I know what steps I need to take to make my dreams a reality. I will never forget my experience working for that company that I quit recently. I remember being there and feeling so isolated from everyone because everyone there was very cliquey. And the HR manager who had problems with me had also confronted me one time because she felt that I wasn't socializing enough with my coworkers. I'm not about to be kikiing with any of my coworkers. I don't trust them, okay? And that goes for any job. The only times that I befriended coworkers was after one of us left the place. That is the only time. A week before I quit, I went out to dinner with my family and my brother was there. And my brother is not the type of person to say much, especially when there's a conversation happening about a problem that a family member's having. But that night at dinner, while I was talking about quitting this job and this manager that was just giving me grief and making me feel anxious and panicked and stressed, he was listening. And I saw him nodding his head, and I kind of looked at him, and he said to me, "Some people in life just want to see you fail." I hate crying, for real. I may joke about crying, but anyway, he said, "Some people in life just want to see you fail, and it doesn't matter how much you try to please them or make them happy. They will never be satisfied." That has really stuck with me, what he said. It's really true, you know? I just think that that manager just, for whatever reason, didn't like me, you know? I'm a very kind person and I'm very quiet at work. I never go out of my way to cause drama. I just mind my business and do the best that I can. You know, she just seemed like a miserable person and she was trying to dim my light. I'm maturing enough to realize that how someone treats you has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So, you know, she treated me the way that she felt about herself. And that is the only explanation that I can come up with, because what I endured and experienced at that job is something that has really left a scar on my heart. I know someone out there is going to come across this video and they're going to see it and not feel so alone. I'm just happy that this chapter of my life is officially closed, and now going forward, the sooner I identify those red flags, the sooner that I can walk away. I'm not going to make excuses for anyone. I'm not going to try and give people the benefit of the doubt, because the minute you do that, the minute you brush it off, it's just going to get worse and you're just prolonging your suffering. So thank you so much for listening to my story, and if you're in a situation that I was in, I hope you get out of it.